And then there's another one called The Tale of Two Terrorists, which is, I don't really want to give that one away too much either, because that's definitely not what people would expect it to be. It's, I'm not gonna say, but I definitely don't think it's maybe what leapt into your mind. It's actually, it will probably surprise you. Other than that, on the album, there's Voices of the Voiceless, of course, will be on there. Long Live Palestine, featuring Norman Finkelstein, now will be on there as well. Something Wonderful will be on there. Abomination will be on there as well. Cradle of Civilization. So, yeah, that's the album soundtrack for The Struggle. It's going to be 12 tracks long. The Best of Lowkey mix CD is going to have a lot more tracks. That's going to be basically what I feel is my my best work, from Key to the Game 3 to Dear Listener to stuff I've done here and there to radio, freestyles, etc., etc. Best of Lowkey. That's going to be coming before the album as well. So look out for that, man.
So there's no track on this new album, soundtrack to The Struggle. There's no track called something like Rep My Ends, or, so, because Lowkey doesn't do that, is what I'm trying to point out, and I mean, even that concept is since 1942. I mean, the concept, I posed that to you because I'm so impressed by it. I can't wait to hear that. I genuinely can't wait to hear that.
You, bro.
It sounds like a book. I'm looking forward to picking that track up and reading it. So what about racism? You mentioned one track there. You were talking about a track which is, of course, the 1942 track dealing with racism. In your opinion, then, do we have a massive problem with racism? And if we do, has it changed? Do you think the face of the racist and the way that the racism is aimed now in the United Kingdom, do you think the aim has changed?
Well, I think there's always a real top-down way in which the public are encouraged to look at the world. I think that, yes, definitely, racism has changed. I think a lot of the issues behind that people sort of become race issues are not really race issues. I think in regards to a lot of people having a negative perception of Muslims or Asians or Arabs in this country are really basically because of the foreign policy that this country is engaged in at the moment. And I think in an effort to exonerate themselves from some blame and basically encourage support for what is essentially a bad foreign policy, a negative foreign policy, there are certain racist agendas which are pushed, I think, and are encouraged that people to have these perceptions of people. I do think England at this moment in time does have a lot of issues with race, and I think it's actually on the increase. But I think, England's role in the world generally, and I say this as a person who not only was born here, but one whole side of my family is English, this is through no dislike for English people. Our role in the world has always been quite imperialist and always been quite colonial in its relationship to other countries. It just so happens that now we are not the number one colonizers and we are not the number one imperialists. We are, second in command to what is basically the United States, are the number one imperialists in the world today. But I think, Britain's imperialist legacy is definitely felt around the world. Whether we in this country are really aware of it, or whether we in this country really understand the gravity and the seriousness of it. I think if British people were educated in our history lessons in the education system about our role in the world and how it had a negative and maybe from some perspectives a positive impact on the rest of the world, then we might understand more why things are the way they are now. When we talk about the Middle East, and there was an agreement called Sykes-Picot after the First World War between the British and the French, whereby they carved up the Middle East into different pieces and founded what were the mandates. So it was the British mandate of Palestine, the British mandate of Mesopotamia, which became Iraq. All of the borders which these people are expected to adhere to and still do today were made by us, were made by the British and the French. And that's something that the people in those countries are 100% aware of, but the average British person is not aware of that. The average English person is not aware of that at all. But the people, for instance, in Palestine will always remember the Balfour Declaration. But, if you mention the Balfour Declaration to the average English person, they just don't know. Whereas, if we were actually educated about our own role in the world, I think people would have a greater understanding of, where we're at today and why things are the way they are.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. This is the thing. See, in history lessons in the United Kingdom, children get taught about the real bad guys like Hitler. The focus is taken away from ever suggesting that maybe, just maybe, this country has been the cause of so much hurt. And of course, like you say, parties like the BNP now, they're just profiting on the sort of, what's the word, not hatred, but the kind of lack of fairness that people are feeling in this country because of, like you say, the foreign policy that we've got that isn't working. Isn't working at all. And I think, like you're hinting, I think it's not working on purpose. There's a purpose for it not quite working. But anyway, we could talk all day about separatism and all that sort of thing. But listen, let me just tell you very quickly. I mean, I asked you that question about racism because one of my friends, he's married to a German lady, and they've been married a few years. They moved to a certain part of the country, and she's not allowed to go to the local shop. They won't serve her because she's German. She can't go into the cafes. They won't serve her. They ask her to leave the cafes in this area because she's German. I just think we have that whole Eastern European thing going on at the moment. This is what I've seen more and more. You've got the knives are out now for even wider spread of people which aren't English, if you understand what I mean. It's not mixed race, it's not Arabic people. We're talking now just basically anybody who isn't British. This is where we are.
Even if they are ethnically Caucasian or, for lack of a better word, with the physical description that is white, there are people definitely discriminated against in this country. But I think that has a lot to do with economic reasons. I think it comes down to when people are losing their jobs, they're always going to look for a scapegoat and they're always going to look for somebody to blame. And I think that's the situation they're in now. I mean, it's basically a place where the politicians are failing and the people are getting blamed for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that's where it is, man.
Well, the politicians are failing, and but of course, like you said, they're not pointing the finger directly, are they, in the media? But they're just allowing the people to point the finger. It's almost like vigilantism. It's a strange, twisted way that they're working. But anyway, listen, there's so many of your fans, and people want to know about your future plans and that. So let's get to a few listener questions then. Let's get to this one then. Lowkey said on a recent interview he's going to West Bank with a Mortal Technique at M1 of Dead Prez in the summer. Could you ask him about that? Do you want to elaborate on this West Bank and Mortal Technique M1 story?
Well, basically, I'll be honest with you. I don't want to speak too much on that because, obviously there are security issues with where we are traveling to, and there are, people listening to whatever is said. But yeah, I mean that is on the cards. That is on the cards. But I don't really want to speak too much on it, to be honest with you.
No. I mean, you've been travelling, haven't you, over the past few months as well? You've been out in various countries, in various areas of the countries which are extremely dangerous. Last time you came on, you told us all about the Israel, the airport incident, and pretty much everything like it was out there. But this is obviously, like you say, I can understand why you won't talk about this on the show in too much detail and give us a date and location for where you're going to be at certain times. I can understand that, but it's a brave thing to do. Am I right in thinking that?
I think maybe some people can see it like that. I just think it's a necessity for me to do this. I just think in order to understand the world better, I think it's important to actually travel and see the world and see what's really, 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 really going on, because you can gain as much knowledge from reading books about a place or reading books about something or getting other people's perspectives on it, but ultimately you need to see for yourself what's really going on. I mean, we just came back about a week and a half ago from Beirut, Lebanon, and we did a show out there.